Agriculture has played a major role in improving many economies worldwide. Hence, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations (FAO), in conjunction with the African Union, held a multi-stakeholder dialogue summit to improve the design, implementation, and impact of the public-private partnerships in Zambia's agriculture sector, also known as Agri-PPP, at the Taj Pamosi Hotel in Lusaka. After the special and welcoming remarks were made, valuable presentations were given by the FAO representative Stephanie Galatova, highlighting the objectives of the dialogue, background on FAO and the African Union Commission's works on agri-PPPs. Mark Fine talked about the African Union's declarations and commitments on engagement of the private sector for increased investment in agriculture. And from the Zambia Development Agency (ZDA), Mukula Makasa brought out the initiatives for engaging the private sector towards increased investments in Zambia's agriculture sector. Also, Mr. Kita Shisholeka from the PPP unit under the Minister of Finance gave a rigorous presentation on the PPP Act and its implementation. There was a special panel consisting experts from the public sector that was set up to discuss the significance of the PPPs in the agricultural development.
Business partnership must, right from the beginning, define inclusivity. How inclusive will all the players in this partnership be? Most of the agricultural business partnerships that we've seen, the off-taker is happy with the small scale bringing the raw material, and that's it. But I want to think that this inclusivity mark that we should be talking about, which will bring about inclusive development in the agricultural sector in this country, should be a partnership to the point of sharing in the, not just in the risks, but in the value that is added in all the aspects, in all the products that are coming to the fore. Let me pick an example. Here is cotton. A partner picks this raw material from the producer, for argument's sake, at 4 kwacha a kilo. A little addition of value to that cotton, just separation of the fuzzy seed and the wool itself. You haven't done anything to the two. The value jumps to close to 30 kwacha. Technocrats tell me. What more when you pick a kilo of the cotton wool and try to come up with hospital-grade cotton wool? 50 grams of that is 5 kwacha. How much is the kilo giving you? So you can see, when this partner who is adding value, yes, this is the partner who is going in with a small scale, we need to make sure that the partnerships pass the value back to the producer by way of giving them a good price.
Okay.
And all agricultural partnerships, I think, need to have this embedded in. And now I was looking through the PPP, and now I have the comfort because Eva said I designed it. And it was a framework. So it had more detail. Yes, it had more detail. So these are the details now that should come in at the point of agreeing. And going further, we need to allow that these partnerships, speaking for cooperatives, for instance, they must allow ownership. Here is an example. An investor goes into Ikelen and they want to do what with pineapple, something with pineapple. And here is an organization of the producers of the pineapple. Yes, you have the plants there, but how are you going to allow ownership? There must be flexible ways of doing this. And I imagine in my mind that it is not impossible to go to this producer and begin to say, you as a district cooperative union, for instance, here is a 45% stake in this company. Liquidate it. Find a way of buying these shares off. Allow this producer to come with 1,000 kgs of pineapple, get cash for 500 kgs, for instance, and say 500 kgs goes to pay for the shares. So that over time we should be seeing interested unions in these areas where these value chains have been designed, owning these partnerships.
Right.
In our view, I think that should be the more lasting partnerships, business partnerships, that we should all advocate for.
Thank you.
We must appreciate that in agriculture they haven't performed very well. Maybe because of the issues of that have come of details and all those that were not available to the public. Because when you are drafting a law, sometimes that's why they have worked with lawyers, the interpretation. It might not be understood clearly by the stakeholders. So this is what we should all appreciate, so that as we move forward, we can find ways of coming up mechanisms that can help so that the same law can work in the agriculture sector. We should maybe avoid the impression that the blame game, maybe agriculture blaming the Minister of Finance, the orders of the Act, or agriculture blaming ZDA, or finance blaming it, but we should all embrace the responsibility that we need to work together for the betterness of the sector and the country as a whole. That is my.
Good afternoon. My name is Jimmy Kanasha. I'm a reporter from CBC Television. And my question goes to Madam Eva. Good afternoon, by the way. Okay, you should have not mentioned the fact that she designed this. Well, my question is simple and basic. Yes, clearly you stated out that there have been challenges after designing the PPP Act. But I'm certain there are some positive things, or many positive things that came out of it. So what I'd like to know is, what are those positive attributes that came out of it, and can they still be implemented today and for future purposes? And also, what other keys are you looking to implement in the next setup?
All sectors are covered, and they'll be covered as the minister prescribes. Because all work that goes through the department, the unit, and you call it a PPP, not a joint venture or a loose partnership. Like, I think the IDC has recently partnered with Israeli companies in Rofanyama. I don't think they did it under the PPP Act. Otherwise it would have been a process. Okay? But the PPP Act is good in the sense that when you follow a process, there's certainty. And the PPP Act is positive in the sense that the processes are not long. They are not like the ordinary public procurement law. These you can enter in 3 ways. You can enter through negotiations direct with the units and the contracting authority, by way of using your intellectual property rights, which no one else has, in relation to maybe innovation, technology, and agriculture. So you go straight. Within a month or 2, I expect you to have your PPP agreement in place. Then you can go the unsolicited way, which our Public Procurement Act discourages. But it encourages the private sector. Approach the contracting authority, approach the Ministry of Agriculture, and say, this is what I can offer you. These are my financing lines. These are my guarantees. This is the risks I'm going to take. This is my technical specifications and feasibility study. Look at them, and if you're happy with them, let us enter into an agreement. Okay? The third is now the ordinary thing where they issue a tender, you bid, and that process is quite long. Okay? So those are 3 positives already coming out of that process. The fourth positive is that the PPP agreement, the Act specifies what should go into a PPP agreement. It guides both the contracting authority and the private sector player. So all they have to do is to look at the Act and say, oh, so this is what should go in it. I must ensure my risk is optimal. I must ensure that my lenders have stepping in rights, and so forth and so forth. Obviously, there's some projects which have a completion period, where the government, or if the government so wills, depending on the design, the small-scale group or the cooperatives will take it over. And the private, the government will drop out, which is also to me a big positive. Because government is not supposed to do business in agriculture. They should be there for a short while to help ameliorate certain risks and escalate and facilitate certain processes, like obtaining approvals, licenses, permits, and so forth. Ensuring protection of the environment, ensuring that the project is actually on time. You know, it's streamlined. It will deliver the objectives to which the PPP was established. The government must ensure that the socio-economic benefits actually derive to the community, and that's what we have done for the PPP Act. It's a promise by both parties. I'll do this, in turn you do this. So there's a lot of positives, I must say, and it's the way it was crafted. It's crafted in such a way that everyone can fit in. Everyone can fit in.
My name is Chinai Mukumba from the Consumer Unity and Trust Society, a research and policy advocacy institution. So just a quick comment. I think I wanted to double down on the comment from the Ministry of Commerce that ultimately, when thinking about PPPs, we should really be looking to seeing how we can enhance the value that particularly the farmers are getting from this partnership. But then I had a question for, I think it was our colleague from the Ministry of Finance. I don't think he's sitting on the panel. But there was a discussion around, we have an act, but we don't necessarily have the regulation, the regulatory framework. And so I wanted to know, number one, to what extent have we started working on that? Are we working on a regulatory framework? And secondly, how has it impacted the current PPPs that we have at present?
I'd like to congratulate Mrs. Jara for having drafted that law, piece of legislation. It's lovely. And it's working very well, actually. What we have in the legislation that was drafted, the PPP Act, is for regulations. We are currently relying on the regulations for public procurement. The issue is, there is a clause that you slipped in there, Mrs. Jara, that says, where there is a lacuna, a vacuum in the implementation, anything to do with an assessment, a procurement process, or an offense, anything in that act, we should rely on the Public Procurement Act. Because they're very similar processes, except when you get to the agreement at the end, you have a different type of relationship. Instead of an employer-employee or employer-contractor, you have a partnership. So those things are taken care of through that clause. The fact that we do not have regulations has given us some challenges. We are trying to address them, we are addressing them. We've been able to enter into some agreements without them, but we are currently developing regulations. We have a draft, a first draft, but we're not, it was prepared in 2011. The first draft was not completed for some reason. I believe this had to do with the political issues that we went through over quite some period. As you know, there was changes in government due to the death of two different presidents over this period, so we've had challenges in concluding with that part of the legislation. We are in the process now of engaging a consultant to finalize regulations, which should be done by the end of the year. So we are dealing with it. I just wanted also, apart from that question, I hope that is satisfactory. Thank you. Just to deal with some of the other issues I've heard. First of all, let us appreciate the fact that the PPP Act is a default framework legislation. It is not sector specific, so it's difficult. It isn't sector specific, so it's difficult for it to deal with only one sector. All the challenges that I'm hearing here today do not have to do with the PPP Act. The issue of market volatility in agriculture, the issue of export bans in agriculture marketing programs, the issue of climate change effects and how those are being dealt with in agricultural agreements is not a PPP issue. It is an issue of other legislation that is available, which government is using to control the agricultural sector. So it is those that need to be looked at. It's not the PPP Act all the time. But the other thing is, when we are developing a PPP agreement, one of the issues we look at in detail is political risk. What is the likelihood of political decisions affecting a project? And we always draft clauses in the contract that help mitigate political risk. So if you have not done a very good job at drafting the agreement, then you will have problems in implementation. It has nothing to do with the act. It is drafting of the agreement. After you have identified your private partner and you have come up with the actual structure of the agreement. Remember I said, the private sector is given the opportunity to innovate. So they'll tell you what they want to do and how they want to do it. It is their money they are bringing to invest. So if they have given you a solution that may not work, despite the circumstances which they're supposed to have considered, then I don't think you can blame the PPP Act. Blame the process. Maybe the negotiations should have gone deeper into delving into operational issues rather than the PPP Act, which only governs the framework. We have to be very clear on what exactly we need to look at. On the issue of trust, briefly, trust is very important in PPPs. The paramount objective of a PPP is each partner should go into a PPP with the sole objective of achieving the other partner's objective. Then you will get a good PPP.
My name is Harriet from the Ministry of Agriculture. My question is again to Mr. Keita, PPP Director. Yeah, the Ministry of Agriculture has been, the government has been investing in infrastructure. We have low investment in agriculture, so the government has not sat down to wait for the private sector to come in. They have done some investments, and give an example for irrigation. We have some government investing in irrigation, but as you are aware, they will not go into the business of operating and finding market and all those logistics. So I wanted to find out of the few projects that we have in the ministry where the government has invested in infrastructure, and we are trying to do a PPP. Is it possible to look at the process and create PPPs?
Private objectives for entering into a partnership with government is revenues for profit. Okay? Yes. The objective of government is to deliver a service. And because they do not have either the technical expertise, the technical know-how, maybe they do not have the resources, financial resources, they tend to give some of these responsibilities to the private sector. Yes, you can actually do a lot in agricultural PPPs. First of all, we tackled at one time with a team from your ministry the issue of farm blocks. With a farm block, you need an anchor, I don't want to call it anchor tenant. We use that for shopping malls. Anchor co-venture. So if you have an anchor core venture, then what happens is you try and generate your project proposal for the integrated project. There's a core venture, there are other ventures. The core venture should be able to generate the investment for some, if not all, the bulk infrastructure. That's why it's always about infrastructure. You need to have the road that goes in. You need to have the bulk water that goes into the farm block. You need to have the energy for them to operate the equipment and machinery and all that. Now, if you design a farm block properly, you will, or at least efficiently, you will have a situation where you leave out the input sector, because for the core venture, they need inputs. The inputs should come from other players around the core venture. Then you have the value addition after the produce has been harvested by the core venture. You need to regulate that. You need to have a guideline that they cannot come in, do the core venture operation, take on the value addition, and everything goes out and is exported. They get what they have come in for and relax. You need to design it so that it has different sectors that are played by different players. And the different players will have the value addition players. They might be 3 or 4 much smaller institutions. You'll have the ones bringing in the inputs. Remember, all these people will be using energy. All these people will be using the same core infrastructure, the same water supply line. So they'll be paying for all these things. It is how you work around that to ensure that the revenues from some of these other players subsidize the investment for the core venture, even though at the end of the day, the core venture is the one that will be making the biggest investment and obviously getting the biggest revenues. It's how the whole thing plays around it. I think I've seen some examples in some countries, and we're working on how we will advise the Ministry of Agriculture to design these farm blocks in that manner. Otherwise, we cannot have government stepping into value addition. That's private sector oriented.
All right. Thank
For CBC Business Outlook, I am Jimmy Kanasha.